All right,
Hey,
here we are. Starting a little bit early, but why not? We're here. We're having a good time. We're riding high on a cloud. So let's say hi to everybody. Again, I'm Eric, and I'm joined here by most of the Kaiju Masterclass team. Some of our folks can't quite make it this evening, and I think you said, Steve, that Ed will be here in about 10 minutes or so. But here we are. Kaiju Masterclass 2 is officially in the history books now. What a great convention all weekend. I was just in love with every panel. I mean, the quality. I think we stepped up our game from last year, which seemed like that would be a tough act to follow. But what do you guys think? How did we do this year?
I think we had great guests, and I think if we stepped up our game, it might have been in the area of presentation.
Yeah,
Hopefully, it was a little bit smoother. We were able to kind of smooth out the when we were interviewing Japanese guests, smooth out the process that way, and also add a little visual flares, kind of spice it up with some images here and there. So anyway, but the conversations went deep again. They were really fascinating. I learned a lot myself. I mean, I was fortunate to participate in a few of them, but I also enjoyed listening to everybody's stuff. So yeah, it was fun.
yeah. So what I'll do then is I'll kind of go around the room here and see what our Kaiju Masterclass faculty, if you will, what they had to say about their thoughts about this past weekend. And then for those of you who are in the live chat, think of some questions. We'll go ahead and take some of your questions. If you have any questions about the convention this year, or if you have any comments you want to share with us, we'll read some of these live. So, Steve, was that what you wanted to say, or shall I? Was there
Well,
anything?
I don't know if we want to go. Let's hear from everybody, but we can all, if we want to talk about the things that either we were involved in or some of the things that I don't know, revelations or, things that you learned or want to talk about that came up in these conversations. Let's do that.
Sounds great. So, John, we'll start with you.
All
What are
right.
your impressions? What are your revelations?
Well, I'll do my best. I developed a coughing fit about a half hour ago, and I've been inhaling Vicks Vapor Rub
He's got the
and,
COVID.
and the COVID. No. So it seems like it's worked. Everything seems a little bit better. Uh, Obviously, Koroku, probably number one for obvious reasons because I just didn't think there was a snowball's chance in hell that we would get him. And thanks to our this guy here, Patrick, and we're going to show a special thank you to him that we made. Then, thanks to him, we did. So that was the real high for me was just sort of talking to Koroku and hearing sort of his stories. Not even just about Godzilla in 1984, but sort of his life and how he got involved in the industry. And he was a revelation. It was really awesome to find that he was just this really funny, jovial, very energetically enthusiastic guy. And we were incredibly fortunate to have him. Makoto Inouye was wonderful. Um, he is just an encyclopedia of knowledge when it comes to kaiju music, and he's been involved in so much of it, and just sort of working with Toho, working with Ifukube, and kind of carving out his own career. But I will say that one thing I always enjoy is when Eric and I get to talk to Reiko Yamada. And I mean, she's done podcasts, she's done live interviews and things of that nature, but we really thought it was important to kind of get her on here because she was as close to Akira Ifukube as anybody that you can possibly hope to talk to right now. She not only was his student, but she was very close with the family. So her stories, just her general demeanor is just great, and I love her to death. We love her to death, but like she's always a fascinating person to talk to, and I hope everybody really enjoyed hearing what she had to say.
Yeah, go.
He's a firecracker.
No, she is. She's a sweetheart, and of course, that's what's great about these interviews is that if you there was a little bit of overlap, and you had to leave one in order to go look at another one. They're up there on YouTube forever. As long as there's YouTube, they'll be up there. So go back and check out what you missed.
And
Well,
I do want to say, even though my opinion on Godzilla Final Wars has not changed, I do respect Ryuhei Kitamura a little bit more after seeing his interview, because he
Yeah.
talked. He's really he's a filmmaker's filmmaker. You can tell. And maybe things didn't work out the way he wanted them to, and I think he kind of went into that. And I liked how he really pulled no punches about sort of working in the Toho system. And like I said, it's like you can like Final Wars, you can dislike it, but his interview was really good. And Steve and Matt, I think you guys did, or Matt, Steve and Kyle, Steve and Kyle, I think you guys did a great job. Good job.
Well, he was a lot more candid than I was expecting, and I was really happy with how that turned out.
I was too. I wanted to go back to your conversation with Reiko just for a sec, because there was one question where I can't remember exactly what the question was, but you were asking her about, leading up to the part of her career where she began performing Ifukube's music, and that whole long story of what she went through to get to the point where she could perform Rhythmica Ostinata was really fascinating. Not only like the endurance test that it was to learn the piece and to be able to play it up to tempo and all that stuff, but the physical demands of it. And then she goes through this thing where she has a car accident, and the setbacks that caused. I mean, that whole it was like a whole chapter of her life, just to kind of get to the point where she could play this music. And I thought that was really great.
She's really fascinating. Everything she has to say.
Yeah, no, that was wonderful. But as far as Kitamura, he was not. We caught him on a good day, I guess. He was in the middle of shooting something, and it was actually like 10 o'clock at night. I got up at the crack of dawn. That's why we were laughing, because you can see the sun like rising behind me. When I start the interview in darkness, like it is here now, and as I was sitting outside, and. But no, he did it after a day of shooting, and right in the middle of some movies making in Japan now that he can't tell us about. But he was really on, and like questions like I asked at the end, like, what did Final Wars do for your career? And at first he basically said, I didn't do anything for my career. Then he started thinking about it. He went into this whole thing, but it kind of was one of the things that triggered, spurred me to leave Japan and start making movies overseas, because I just hated the way Toho marketed it, and I felt like there's nothing here for me anymore. So that was interesting.
Well, and that's an important thing, Steve, is like I said, love a movie or not love it. I mean, whether we're talking about like a controversial film like Godzilla 98 or Godzilla Final Wars, that's not really the point. The point is to speak to the filmmakers and speak to people who are involved and get their opinions, because the answers, and in my case, like the answers surprise me sometimes, just as an audience member for that. So I'm really happy that you guys persevered and got Kitamura, because his interview was great. It was
I hope people understand that that's one of the ideas behind doing this. It's not, I mean, we're all fans, obviously, but we're not only picking people whose work we love. That's not really the point. We want to get it into the heads of all these different creative people behind these films, whether they're good, bad, or ugly. And
so you did try to contact Dean Devlin.
Yes, we did. Well, maybe next year.
That offer stands. Yeah, we would happily talk to him.
We would. Yeah. No. Yeah. We'd love to talk to people behind the '98 film. So that's hopefully for another day. Yeah.
All right.
No, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. Patrick Galvin. So, what for you were some of the big moments of the weekend?
Well, one of the key films that really got me into this franchise was Godzilla versus King Ghidorah. So getting to be able to speak to the writer and director of that film, as well as the guy who wrote and directed Biollante, which is remains one of my favorite Godzilla films this day, to speak to him, learn more about his background, learn more about his ideas that went into his films and what he felt he brought to them. That, speaking to him about and getting a very in-depth interview with him was really the highlight. And I think we managed to uncover a lot of new ground with him. Like, for example, it's been well known that he went to medical school before he started making films professionally. But what about the question of, well, why did you go to medical school in the first place? And the fact that it was just a family tradition. It wasn't really like something he really felt he really wanted to do. It was just he was doing the family thing, as he said. That was fascinating. So Steve and I had a really great interview with him. That was a lot of fun. We talked to Mark Schilling, great writer about Japanese cinema. He's covered it professionally for more than 30 years at this point. That was a lot of fun. And the Kitamura interview was very, very good. Really, there were no duds this year at all. Every panel was very good. Like I was telling Bird before we went live, the only thing working against us this year was just some tech issues with some of the live panels, but that's expected. Other than that, it was a thorough success all the way through. I was absolutely pleased with the event this year. Completely.
Yeah, and Bird got a ring light.
I did. You guys don't have to deal with my crappy lighting anymore.
Yeah. Maybe we want to go back to the other one. I don't know. Jury's out. I don't know. Well, you used to have like a lamp over there, or something. It looked like you were in your... Yeah, okay.
Right. Parnley, same question for you.
Well, I learned how to unmute myself before I started talking. That happened a couple times. I'll start with some of the negative stuff, which was just be like, hey, you have to make sure that the mute button is unmuted. And then you also have to make sure that, you're just ready to go when you switch panels. And that's always kind of nerve wracking when you're going from one live stream to the next live stream and you're trying to get set up. And like behind the scenes, technical snafus are going to happen. We kind of expect that. I think the other thing is with Tiffany Grant, like it was just unfortunate. Her internet decided today of all days to kind of have some hiccups. Nothing we can really do except just kind of go forward. But I thought she actually gave a really solid interview and she answered the questions very candidly and with a lot of energy. The highlight for me was actually listening to the Kitamura interview because he gave raw answers and was really direct. And you don't always get that when you talk to people. You don't always get that level of just pure honesty. And I thought like that kind of made me respect his movie a lot more. I don't love Final Wars, but everything that he said made a lot of sense. And you get the thing that I walked away from that interview feeling like is he cares. And the narrative around him was that he didn't care and that we know that's not true now. And we've kind of known that for a while, but I think like that puts it to bed. Yeah. And of course, talking to Kitagawa, who played Godzilla that's my personal highlight because he's someone that I've idolized as a kid, and being able to talk to the person that was playing Godzilla is something that's really special to me. So,
the Kitamura interview is really kind of a revelation for me. I can't wait. I mean this honestly, to go back and watch Final Wars again, because I know that's not a sentence one ever hears anywhere.
Some people love it. It's what it is.
But no, it really gave me a lot to think about, and I think that there's the distinct possibility I could watch that film and appreciate it in a different way now. Mr. Burkett, what about for you? What were some of the highlights for you?
I hate to sound like a broken record, man, but the Kitamura interview. Look, I'm an old school Kitamura fan. I remember when I was at Blockbuster, I think it was like senior year of high school, I found Versus. I'm like, what the hell is Versus? And that just kind of sent me down a rabbit hole, Alive, Origami, Azumi, Sky High, Love, Death. There's Bird. What's that short film that he did? I forget what it's called.
Longinus.
There was Longinus. Yeah, there was another one though that was really freaking good. I'm forgetting off the top of my head. But anyways, that interview.
Kevin knows. I'm sure he'll put it in the chat if he's listening.
And we didn't really have a chance to cover a lot of those things. Actually, we focused in on Final Wars, I think, more than I realized, and but there's so much he's done, and I don't know, maybe we can have him again sometime.
All right, Kevin says The Messenger.
That's what it was.
Yeah,
that's what it was. Great. It's actually really, really cool. But yeah, all the interviews were fantastic. I wish I would have had time to participate a little bit more, But
next year.
Next year, exactly.
Oh.
But the Norman England interview was great. The Tiffany Grant one was also really cool. I still need to catch up on the history of Gorgo and then Kevin's other Subaraya panel. We can always listen to Kevin talk day and night about that stuff. It's always great. But it was really top-notch stuff this year.
Yeah, Norman is one of our. We have just a couple of veterans who came back, but I hope that the talk will help turn people onto his book. I've only read sections of the book so far, and he's allowed me to sneak peek a few chapters or whatever. But he went into a lot of things that were really fascinating, including kind of the aspect of being a gaijin person or reporter or person on the set, and the way certain people there. I thought that was pretty interesting and fascinating. He was more or less treated well by everyone, including the director and everybody he needed to be treated well by. But there were some resentments by certain people, and the story of the person stealing the bike that he had been loaned was really kind of fascinating and sort of revealing. Yeah, so I really hope people will buy his book, obviously, but I hope that talk will attract a lot of interest. I really thought too. Last year we had the Saturday morning, this first big day of the convention, and we had the thing with David Arnold where he had some sort of trouble signing on, and we were kind of panicking that we didn't know if he's going to show up or not. And this time, our first interview on Saturday was Ed and I talking to Linda Haynes live, and before we went live, we were in the green room, if you want to call it that, and she told us that she had just gotten over COVID. And she was kind of coughing, and she said, "Don't worry, I'll mute myself when I have a coughing fit." But she clearly, I felt bad because, she clearly wasn't 100%. But she said, no, I want to do this. I'm really, happy to be here and all that. And she just kind of powered through it. And I was really, pleased. But I hope we didn't impose on her. But she gave I don't know if you guys heard her interview, but she did talk. She's one of the few people who's still around who worked with Ishiro Honda, and that's where I'm going with this. She's also one of the few people still around who was among that group of American actors who went over to work on these films. It's basically her and Linda Miller and Russ Tamblyn, right? I don't know if there's anybody else left. And so it was really cool, even though we've heard a million times that how Honda was gentle and all that, but she was talking about his hand gestures and the way he communicated what he wanted from the actors, even though he, was going through an interpreter, through movement and kind of nonverbal cues. I thought that was really great. And then her story about drinking wine with Paul Newman in the backseat of a car going 100 miles an hour down the road was pretty cool too.
That's something not everybody gets to say that they were able to do.
No.
All right, Kyle Bird, what were some of the big moments for you?
Geez, I mean, it's hard to pick, but I mean, just off the cuff, I mean, highlights. Getting to interview Kitamura with Steve was a huge honor. I was happy to be involved with the interviews this year, and yeah, I mean, I know you guys have said it, but just a raw, honest, candid interview, and people will love or hate Final Wars, but you don't have to like something to kind of appreciate what it's doing, and hopefully that kind of was an eye opener. In fact, one thing I really liked, Omori's interview was great too, and one thing that those two guys have in common is that they were these kind of hot indie directors, making the outsider cinema, and they were literally brought in by the people at Toho to
do something different.
Yeah, come and shake this up. Go nuts, and but both of those movies, I think, have, just because they were so radical at the times they were released for this franchise, there's a lot of things about both of those guys that have been said, like the narrative for Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah in the West is that it's anti-American, or Omori is he's got a nationalistic slant, and Omori, he almost said no, it's almost the opposite of that. The narrative around Kitamura was, this movie is so different and weird that, he must not care. He must not have cared about Godzilla or whatever. And, you actually get to talk to these guys and, ask them, never mind what all the rumors are. Like, ask them directly, like, hey, what's the deal with this? And to get answers from the horse's mouth. And I feel like Omori and Kitamura kind of cleared a lot of air. And then also, I mean, doing the Gorgo panel with John LeMay and Kevin Derendorf was great fun. John knows all this history like the back of his hand. He's always great. I was really happy with Bill Stout.
Oh yeah, you guys did a great job.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Stout and Tiffany Grant. I mean, some of these are people that their bodies of work are they have more stories than anyone has the time to hear. And so hearing them talk is great. And one of the things that I love about Kaiju Masterclass is hearing from aspects of the industry that you don't hear very often. So having Tiffany Grant and Craig Allen back to back. Those are two people with very different experiences in the dubbing industry, and with two, who are able to give different kinds of insights into how that's done, and so that was great. Shinada's interview was amazing too. I mean, I loved his little diagrams. Of course, like Matt said, getting to really do a deep dive with Tom Kitagawa. I mean, he does a lot of interviews, but the cool thing about doing interviews yourself is you can ask questions that you always want to ask that no one ever asks. So, getting to ask him about, the Toei Spider-Man, or getting to ask Kitamura about his work on a movie like Bravestorm, but yeah, it's same with last year. I mean, the whole weekend went by in it felt like 10 seconds, and here we are at the end again. But no, I'm really proud of everything. Kuroku was great. Everyone was great. I mean, I really can't complain.
Well, our mascot. Here's Ed. Okay,
Mr. Godzuszewski is in the house.
Finally.
Hey,
Hello, Ed.
Hi, guys.
We're going around the room asking everybody what their big highlight is. We'll go to Ed, and then we'll go to our unofficial mascot, Tom, because we're all waiting to know what Tom has to say. But Ed, I know you just stepped in the door here, but we're just going around the room asking folks what their big moments or favorite moments from the weekend were. So what was that for you?
Well, unfortunately, because of my work situation, I didn't really get a chance to watch much of the live feeds. I mean, I was happy I could get through the sessions that I had assigned, but honestly, I didn't have a chance to watch anything else yet. So that's something I'm going to try and do over the next couple of days. With the wonders of
You're fired, Ed.
What? Sorry, guys.
Oh, I should mention Ed's Biolante one was another favorite of mine.
Yeah, I was very happy to see Ed come back and do part 2 of that, because I mean, we could throw those together as like a supercut, and that would be just like a great piece to have on the YouTube page. It was great. You did a good job, Ed.
Someone ought to include it as like a commentary track on Blu-ray. I don't know.
Well, Ed, talk about the interviews that you did. I mean, I think you were there when you interviewed Norman.
Yes.
Talk about that, and how that went, and also our talk with Linda, and whatever impressions you have of those experiences.
Yeah, well, of course, talking with Norman it's always a good, fun, entertaining time, and Norman is never short of interesting comments. I think I'm really excited for him for his book, which should be coming out anytime now. I think this is really good timing for that, to get people aware of this really wonderful book that he's written, and I think it'll be a real big contribution to this genre, to give people a real inside look at how a film is made, because he had such great access from start to finish on the GMK production, and it's all, as always, it's been a lot of fun to catch up with Fuyuki Shinada, who I don't get a chance to see all that often, but somebody who I've known going back way to 1979 during my first visit to Japan. And I mean, he had some really great stories to tell. I wish we actually had more time because I think that there's a lot more that we could have covered, but time constraints being what they were, I still think being able to talk to him and have him be able to share some of his experiences here is really quite satisfying. And yeah, talking with Linda was nice to meet Linda at last, and I thought she had, although unfortunately, there's time takes its toll on her memories and certain things. She did have a number of real interesting stories to tell us about her career. That was really, actually a nice thrill to be able to meet her and hear what she had to say.
By the way, Kevin is posting in the comments. Oh, there you go. And we should explain to anyone who doesn't know, he's quoting Amanda, who was one of our interpreters and a key member of our team. So that's very cool. Yeah.
That was also one of my favorite parts as well. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That was the big revelation that Koichi Sugiyama was probably not happy.
I think
Probably.
let's have a round of applause for Mariko and Amanda.
Yeah, indeed.
Would not have been possible without them.
Yes.
No.
For anyone who wasn't paying attention, Amanda and Mariko were our interpreters for the interviews with the Japanese guests, and they knocked it out of the park once again. So we're really, really fortunate that they're on the team. So
we're also very fortunate to have Tom with us. Tom,
are we?
He told me to say that.
I think he's going to make us. I'm afraid he's going to make us do one of those workouts that he's always doing. And
so, Tom,
whip you guys into shape, get you all ready to play Remika Astonata.
It's interesting. We have Burkett and Tom who accidentally gave us the idea to do this because Burkett made his YouTube video and then Tom shared it, and then it was in the comments of that post that Steve and Eric started talking about doing something like this.
I love it. It was a lark of an idea. I love it.
Yep.
So
was
Tom,
were we commenting on Tom's share or the?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Tom, what did you think?
It's your fault.
So, again, I think it was great in that it had a little bit of something for kind of everyone. If you're more of a newcomer kind of to this genre, you had the panel, the Apocalypse Then panel that gave like a very high overview of a lot of movies that came out in the 50s and 60s that were the atomic scare movies. If you're a long time person who wanted the deep dive stuff, the really deep dive stuff, you had Shinada busting out his diagrams and talking about scrapped concepts for GMK, which I don't think I ever knew the Anguirus ice beam stuff. I mean, that was some pretty new information. Yes. And then if you're just a person who likes really good interviews too, you had Norman. I mean, Norman is such a storyteller. That guy can spin a yarn, and I know he does awesome subtitling work, which we saw. We had the privilege of seeing his subtitles for Linking Love, which were fantastic. But he should also just write. Like, he's a fantastic writer. I mean, I'd buy like a fiction novel from that guy because he can just tell a story. And I put his book on my Christmas wish list. But then also too, like I mentioned, Reiko Yamada, she's like a little firecracker. She's just so energetic and so fun. Kuroku was great. I mean, a lot of his stuff like went over my head kind of. But again, I think that's that. If that's interesting to you, you're going to learn a lot from that interview because he talked about. I don't know what a pedal point is at all, and I think I might have basically kind of learned it a little bit. But if that's the sort of in-depth analysis you want of musical theory, he had it for you. Mm-hmm. And then the few that I'll highlight beyond that are Tiffany Grant and Bill Stout. I think just I love their willingness to be just very unfiltered. She was so willing and so ready to just call the new translations stupid and terrible because she'd been doing it her way first for 25 years, and her way was better. And Bill Stout, I don't know if he knew what he was doing when he was getting up there and saying that the effects in the old Godzilla movies are terrible, but I love it. I love when people are candid like that.
Right.
And going to that level then too is Kitamura. I mean, you can't say enough about how very clear and obvious it was that he really wants to set the record straight. He knows what the reputation of himself and he knows what the reputation of Final Wars is, and he's out there going, guys, I gave you Gorath and Gotengo and King Caesar. I mean, and not only did I cast Takarada and Kumi Mizuno, but I put them in parts that had some weight to them that because I wanted to work with these people. That I didn't just put them out there just for you to clap at and have a reference to something. I wanted it to have some weight. I wanted to work with them. That was the whole reason I cast them in the first place. But so for me, the big highlight though is I come to something like this expecting quality content, which you guys totally delivered on, hoping for some fun and engaging stuff, which obviously 99% of it delivered on, but not daring to hope that something in it delivers something that is like a paradigm shift. And Kazuki Omori getting out and saying, listen, I understand that you think that the military stuff that's happening in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah is kind of gross and kind of nationalistic, but that was the intention. I wanted it to be over the top because I wanted to point out that we should be striving towards the opposite of that. I mean, that blew my mind. I've always said that that's a movie I like, despite some of the kind of nastier messaging of it. And for him to come out and be like, no, I intended the complete opposite of it. I can't wait to go back and revisit that movie with that in my head and just have a completely different perception of those parts of that movie. Yeah. And that's... I don't ever dare to hope for something like that from an interview from one of these people. At best, I hope for what Kitamura did, which is like he could I love Final Wars, and he just confirmed a lot of the reasons why I love it. And that's like the best I ever hope for. So for something like that Omori interview to just completely have this information in it that just changes the way you view a film completely. And I know a lot of people are saying that about the Kitamura interview. I mean, whether they still like the film or dislike the film, they're saying it really changes their approach to it. I mean, you had two different interviews that did that for people, and that's spectacular.
Interesting. It's interesting how it kind of focuses in on the different ways that we in the West perceive these films that are made for a Japanese audience that's going to perceive them differently. And sometimes, our inherent our biases are going to cause us to interpret something a certain way. I thought it was interesting too, although I'm not sure I bought it 100%, but he claimed that he wasn't really aware of the Wall Street Journal and the other things that it was on Entertainment Tonight here.
Yeah.
It was a manufactured controversy. It wasn't. The film wasn't playing in the United States, so it's not as if audiences here were walking out of the theater or something like that. It was and I remember Entertainment Tonight. They threw either
wasn't it camcordered footage or something?
Yeah, or they threw it in front of some old military guys, and they went, "How dare they?" That kind of
I remember. Yeah, I think that's on YouTube.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Yeah,
really?
I've seen.
But nevertheless, yeah, you're right. I mean, what this kind of environment, this kind of interview allows us to do is pull out those stories, and once in a while we get something like that where we're correcting a misassumption, and it's really it's a privilege to be able to do it. So I'm glad you enjoyed that. Thanks, Tom. And by the way, Tom, what's your address? Where do I send the check? Sorry.
On a more personal note too, when you were interviewing Kitamura, my son walked in the room and he said, "Oh, you're watching another one of these." And I said, "Yeah, that's the guy who directed Godzilla Final Wars, though. You really like that movie." And he was like, "Which one?" And I was like, "The one with the black Gigon in it." And he went, and he sat down next to me. He thought, like, he's 6 years old. He has no idea what you guys were doing or what you were talking about, other than he said, "Oh, he dropped out of high school. Interesting." But he's got no concept of what an interview is or anything. But he thought it was the bee's knees that you guys were talking to a director of one of his favorite movies, the guy who made the movie, and he's saying, "Did he make the suit and all this?" And I was like, yes, like, you're 6, it's fine. But yeah, so even from that perspective, as a parent, I think there's little nuggets and fun things in here for young fans too, and I think that's the future of this fandom, obviously, right? So it's great that there's stuff like that for all of us, to have these really in-depth and interesting interviews, but there's also stuff in here that's accessible for younger kids.
Cool.
I thought Mark Schilling's interview was really good. I had to bounce out of that one, but I'm going to catch up with it. But just hearing how the Japanese film industry changed over the years, and how Toho now isn't Toho then, and how Shin Godzilla fits with the things that are very trendy in Japanese film right now. That was all really good stuff.
Yeah. Kitamura talked a little bit about that too, and how even he realized in 2004 that Godzilla himself was becoming a little passé, and people didn't care. And Godzilla's the B-side of a Hamtaro double feature.
Right.
And so in order to make Godzilla relevant again, you have to play to the general audience and not just the Godzilla audience.
He really did both, in that he threw like every Godzilla reference and Toho reference under the sun into that film. So it was kind of like the best of, well, it could, it was the best of both worlds, at least in its intent. Another person that we interviewed, I'm not sure how many of you caught it, was Jasper Sharp. Eric and Matt Parmley and I talked to him today, and that was a live interview. He lives in the UK, and that's an interesting one for a variety of reasons, not least of which he's a disc producer for Arrow, and he worked on the Daimajin box set and a number of other interesting projects. So we talked. There was a lot of discussion about, and Eric can elaborate on this, but just about the process of how films are selected, how they're, what's chosen for release, and how do you determine what sort of materials you're going to create to package it with? How do you determine how a film's going to be treated? Like Majin, how did they arrive at the conclusion that they should give it this first-class treatment? So that was an interesting discussion into the business side of it, because every time something like this comes out, inevitably, well, I didn't mention the Criterion thing, which Ed and I were involved with, but it's a perfect example of something that, feels, even though it's great that it came out to a certain extent, it also feels like a missed opportunity. So, what kind of things go into a project like that and end up, making it a success or less than that? So that was a good talk. And he also talked about, I brought up his essay in the Eureka H-Man Battle in Outer Space packaging, where he talks about the H-Man, but he went into some detail about Takeshi Kimura and his involvement in the Japan Communist Party. So we talked a little bit about him, and I thought that was a good one.
Yeah, that was a really great interview, and it was very insightful to learn about what goes into like Steve was talking about, the selection process. How do you determine what films are going to be marketable. Because he did say, he said, the general audience is always in mind, because we might think of, companies like Arrow or even to a certain extent Criterion as being, sort of niche for the truly, the aficionados out there. But at least in Arrow's case, and I'm sure it's true at Criterion, the general public is in mind. So that does determine to at least some extent how they select the films that they do. I see we've got some people in the chat. If anyone in the chat has any
we want to start
questions
taking
for
questions.
us.
There's what do we have? There's 25 people watching. I've seen a few people already ask.
There was a question about whether someone asked whether you're going to put these on Blu-rays and package them for release on all these interviews.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. We're
That'd
gonna
be
do
nice.
If you ever
but,
want to hear from us again, we'll do it.
We're working
Call-
on it. Yeah.
No,
Call Ron Bonk, Bird. Call Ron.
they are free and preserved forever.
Few people are asking if we're going to do it again next year.
Yeah. And unless somebody blows up YouTube, they'll be here. Next year, who knows? But we hope so.
Yeah,
We'll
we
figure it out.
definitely would like to.
We
I
kind
do-
of
sorry,
I'm just going to say last year I think our intent was always to try to do it again, but we really didn't commit ourselves to it until the spring or early summer, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we had kind of
Um,
BS'd about it throughout the year, but then by the spring, summer, we were like, so are we going to do this or what? All right, let's go.
People may not realize it, or maybe they do, but it takes a few months to put this together. And we meet on a regular basis. We started, I don't know, when around May, June, starting to put feelers out to people for interviews. And then it intensifies. I guess we didn't have a date in mind, but once we decided on the date of the event, that's when you really kind of have to put the pedal down and kick some ass there.
Godzilla intensifies.
But going to what Steve's saying, what everyone else is saying, is that it is true. This this seems like it just it happens in one weekend and then it's done. Kind of quickly comes and goes. But there are literally months and months and months of work and coordination, weekly meetings with the team that to think about guests, think about logistics, getting in contact with the guests, arranging for their interviews, whether they're going to be live or recorded. So there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that you do not see. So for something that goes by so quickly, months and months and months of preparation.
Plus, we were
Someone had asked.
we were also editing some of the pre-recorded interviews for the Japanese guests to make them flow a little smoother and improve the viewer experience by having them move along a little quicker. That also takes a lot of time to put together as well. So that's also a behind-the-scenes factor in his work.
Someone asked if we would still do this even if G-Fest is happening, and I think, I don't think any of us intended this to be a replacement. I mean, the way I look at it is two different events with different audiences with different intentions, and they're both great for their own reasons. And hopefully we'll do this next year. And I have my hotel booked for G-Fest, so people can come say hi to me there too.
Yeah, it's we're not in competition with them, and I mean we're much smaller than they are, obviously, and I think we kind of put it at this time of year so we wouldn't step on anybody's toes as well. By the way, you people in the chat, you should go to our website and buy a T-shirt.
Yes. Yeah, we got a shirt there. We got tumblers. Look at that. Oh, Tom's got the mug. We got merch, people.
Holy crap, you bought a mug. I love it. That's great.
Tom's always got a mug.
Well, another story. But we have merch there. You can go to the merchandise tab. It'll take you over to Redbubble, and you can buy whatever you want. We
have a Patreon too. If someone wants to just give us $1 a month or whatever,
Yeah, that would help us.
I asked you if you had something like that, Bird, and you said go to Redbubble and buy a shirt.
Well, that's good too.
So Ninja Master 551 says, if you did this again, who would you want to get? I mean,
everybody that we didn't get the last 2 years, we got very few no's, right?
Yeah.
The last couple years. We're actually running out of people.
No.
Yeah, there's definitely. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that we should say any names in case we do get them. But there's some that we thought we would get that couldn't do it. That I think we could probably get next year, and I think people would be very happy with.
And some people that we thought we might not get, then we got.
Right? Yeah, you never.
So that was
Like Kuroku, yeah.
We got to get some of those anime guys.
Hey, we'll talk to anyone that's made something that they can give us details on. So
I think it would be fun to try to. I mean, the timing wasn't right, but we could still try to talk to the Singular Point team next year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's totally valid.
Hopefully next year they'll be a little more. I don't know. Maybe sounds like they're like locked in Toho's basement or something right now.
Yeah. I don't know if this is kind of significant. I think I don't know if anybody caught the on this panel here tonight caught the Chris Mowry interview, but we had for the first time somebody who works for Toho as a guest, and I think that's pretty significant.
Oh.
And so Chris kind of his talk was kind of divided between talking about his extensive work on the Godzilla comics for IDW, and then we kind of pivoted and talked a little bit about his role as creative manager for Toho International. They just, as you may know, on November 3rd there was this Godzilla Day event in Los Angeles where they brought together a bunch of the licensees, and Toho kind of rolled out its marketing or strategic plan for merchandising and ideas and things like that. It was really nothing too concrete. It was more like conceptual, and they kind of looked at the next few years and how it's the 50th anniversary of Hedorah, and then it'll be the 50th anniversary of Gigan next year, and they want to encourage their licensees to develop stuff along those lines. So, but Chris was in charge of that whole event. I mean, that's the kind of stuff he does for them, and so it was fun to learn about what he's doing. And he's also trying to. I think one of the reasons they hired him is they want him to help expand Toho's brand through social media. So he's starting a thing called Godzilla Chomp, a little 5-minute YouTube show that he's going to be doing on a regular basis for Toho, starting next week on the Toho YouTube channel. So that was a good talk. I enjoyed that, and I had Keith Foster do the majority of the interview. Keith is a comic book publisher and author who has an independent comic called Kadoja. It's a giant monster comic. So he really knows. Not only does he know Chris's work really well, but he just knows the ins and outs of the comics industry. So the questions were really on point with the whole production process and all that. It was really cool, and there was a lot of insight into how they were able to use certain monsters and what the restrictions on them were. Because just like Toho does for the movies, in the comics they also impose like a style guide and a Bible that dictates what the comic book publishing companies can and can't do. So that was pretty cool.
That was an interview I tuned into while I was getting ready for a football game that wound up crushing my soul. But I just tuned into it while I was, doing some cleaning and cooking, and just had an earbud in and everything, and I wound up finding it really fascinating. I just tuned into it to have something kind of on and to do while I was getting ready to. I Skype with my family during football every Sunday, so that's kind of our get together. But while I was prepping for that, and it wound up being this really interesting discussion about also a side of the comic world that, as someone who doesn't, I read a little bit. I've read almost every X-Men comic, but as someone who doesn't really read comics beyond X-Men and Godzilla. And now Dragon Ball also. I just never really thought of the person who writes the scripts and also inks the words, and to have that person's perspective on it rather than just the artist was a really interesting and different perspective.
Tom, at least your team is doing better than the Giants still. So you got that going.
For now.
Funny enough, Matti Keskivari, our good friend from Finland, he asked the question, were there any questions you wanted to ask any of the guests but didn't get to? And that's sort of an interesting question, I think,
It's a good
because sometimes, like, so I would like to hear from you guys, but I definitely know that there were questions that I personally would have loved to have asked Reiko regarding Mystery of Kube and sort of like just sort of towards the end of his life, but it's oftentimes it's not something that the person wants to talk about necessarily, or maybe they can talk about. It's a very sensitive subject. So yes, there are questions that some of us would love to ask, but sometimes you just have to sort of err on the side of sensitivity when it comes to that. I don't know if any of you other guys with your guests felt the same way.
Yeah, with Shinada, I know that there were certain areas that when I've talked to him privately, there's a lot of things that he's had to say about the special effects set that he's actually rather reluctant to have made clear, and so there's a lot of judgment that you have to do when you're doing interviews, like areas that there's interesting stories to be told, but on the other hand, you have to use a little bit of discretion on certain things, and so there's a lot of information out there that it'd be nice to be able to make public, but sometimes you can't do it even though you really want to get into those areas. You have to respect the wishes of the interviewee in that case.
Mm-hmm.
You also got to be mindful of their time too. I mean, they're giving us their time, so you got to be mindful of that as well. So and if they've worked in an industry for so long, obviously they got more stories than they can tell you in an hour or two. So you still got to be mindful of that. So
I know that Patrick. I mean, we were only allowed. We went over an hour, but we were initially asked to keep the Omori interview to about an hour. And I know Patrick's really interested in his non-genre career, and we didn't really have a time to really dig too deep into that. And so, sometimes it's not a question of being polite or staying away from topics that are off the table, but just you have to be economical and make choices. And so, who knows? Maybe that gives us an opportunity to go back and talk to some of these people again.
Mm-hmm. I know with Omori, I don't think we knew at the time that we'd only have an hour, but I remember sending you and Patrick some questions. I was like, hey, these would be good questions that I was interested in, and just for the sake of time, you can't ask everything. Like we had a Sinking of Japan adaptation that he was in talks for. His work on some of the later Toho tokusatsu stuff, like the Caesar X movie, and some of the short films he did with Kawakita at the school. And I mean, he's another one of those guys, like I said earlier, a lot of these people, they have more stories than anyone unfortunately has the time to hear. Same thing.
Here's something, Bird. Remember how we had talked about asking Kitamura a question about Tak Sakaguchi, and we ended up not asking it. I can't remember. It just didn't fit into the line of questioning. But
it was something about Sakaguchi's choreography on the human fights in Final Wars.
Right.
And then later on, we brought up a project that Sakaguchi is involved in that Kitamura did not take kindly to, and it doesn't sound like they're on speaking terms. He didn't say his name, but it's pretty clear who he means.
Yeah,
so we almost kind of
dodged the bullet.
It was after the interview, you were saying it reminds you of like if you ever run into an old friend and you're like, oh, how's Joe doing? And then the friend is like, oh, Joe, he's a piece of shit. I don't talk to him anymore. Like we kind of dodged that awkwardness.
Yeah. I mean, you never know. If you ask a question that pisses somebody off, that could turn the interview in the wrong direction in a hurry. So we got lucky there, just by dumb luck,
Yeah, Linda
Kitamura is one. I mean, Kitamura he's got such an expansive career, and one of the things I would have liked to heard from him is, that little movie he did, Origami, that started as just a challenge between him and a friend of his of trying to make a movie with two people in one setting in like a week of filming or something like that. I mean, I would have liked to have kind of heard more about that, and also, if he saw the other one, I would assume he saw the companion or competitive film to that. Right. Which one he thought was better and everything. But the one question that got asked kind of behind the scenes by some of my friends a lot was if Steve has been kicked out of his house.
Because he's always outside.
Yes, I have. Yeah, I'm in the doghouse. No.
Another thing I'll also keep in mind with
I live
as
in
far as
California.
time goes is that
yes.
you also got to bear in mind the translators and what they're doing as well. I mean, translation is a very mentally exhausting process, as both Mariko and Amanda have told us. And so it'd be fun for us to just ask questions for like 3 or more hours. But what about them and their they have to go through things actually work for us? You got to keep that in mind as well for like people who are helping you cross the language barrier.
So I have to assume that everybody saw the first 20 minutes or so of Kuroku's interview then.
Yes.
Yeah, what a challenge. Yeah.
And he's a chatty Cathy.
And wonderful on him. I mean, he gave us so much to go on. But I remember when we were sitting there and like, is Amanda going to be able to handle all this? But no, she was great. And she handled it. It was awesome, and but yeah, that is a consideration, is the translators and what they go through, just to try and, because it's not just about translating, you also have to do some level of interpretation. So
yeah, and with some of these people, yes, Amanda is awesome. There's Richard.
Thank you, Richard.
Hey, Richard.
Yeah, with some of these people, like, I mean, you look like, I would love to talk to Bill Stout about Pan's Labyrinth. Tiffany Grant has 1,700 credits. I mean, a lot of these people they're just full of stories and information, and you got to kind of, you got to kind of go through your questions and kill off things for the sake of time. Realizing you're not going to be able to get everything out of this because
but at the
people
same
have things to do.
At the same time, Kyle, like this year, we also did allow for panels to kind of go over an hour.
Go longer, yeah.
And, like in the case of like if somebody had to jump from like Reiko's panel to Koroku, like, yeah, I mean, it's if you're really into what the guest is saying at the time, it kind of sucks to have to, if you really want to see what the next guest says. But that's the beauty of these things being on YouTube and being preserved. You can just go back and catch up anytime.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we didn't. I don't know if we made a big deal about that on the opening night, but yes, we weren't so religious about trying to keep things within an hour because, something. I don't even know if we really made it super clear that some of the panels were pre-recorded this time, but it was just a way of, first of all, meeting people halfway in terms of their schedule, not asking. It's. We're on different sides of the world sometimes, so it's coordinating a time when it's good for our audience and also convenient for someone in Japan. It's not always the easiest thing, so we recorded a lot of those ahead of time, and also gave us like we were talking about, the opportunity to kind of streamline them a little bit and add some graphics and images and things. And I think the viewing experience for those panels was much more pleasant this time, and I hope everybody out there agrees. And the funny thing is, I don't know, because we didn't make a big deal about the fact that some of them were pre-recorded. I think the interaction among the commenters, the feeling was that the experience was no different. So
yeah.
Someone asked, I think I can't remember if it was Bird or if it was Steve, if he shaved between interviews at one point.
So we had varying beard hair.
I know the guy who asked that question. He's a real asshole. So
I'll say though, I noticed the like that was my initial takeaway from the Kitagawa interview. Which also, by the way, I mean, just what a warm and genuine person that like you would just want to hang out with for a while, just to like soak up his personality. But for him, for when I watched his interview, I was like, oh, this, I thought last year was good, and now this is taking it to the next level. And I see Kevin going wild in the comments, and I do want to say, I don't think I've ever vocalized this, and maybe I will now, just over and over. If you ever want to seem like you know what you're talking about, go and look up something that Kevin Derendorf has already researched and just like regurgitate it, because that guy has
Tsuburaya
done
panel
the legwork.
That Tsuburaya panel was pretty crazy.
Oh, that was insane.
Kevin is great, and I was I think I was telling him the other day, I mean, I don't think that we take you for granted. I mean, I think people just expect him now to show up and just, deliver some ace presentation, and because he always does, but I learn every time I watch one of his presentations, I learn something new. I mean, I knew superficially the story of the Tsuburaya family, but there's a lot of great detail there. The whole story of the trauma that that they went through, in the family with the deaths and everything. It was really fascinating. And then he got into areas of content that they've created that I wasn't even aware of. So again, another great job. And again, your Gorgo panel with John was really great too. Again, it was a story that I know superficially I knew, but there was a lot of detail in there that I wasn't aware of. So thank you for that. I didn't realize the production had bounced around, to the point where they were thinking of doing it in Paris, and then they realized, oh, but the monster would have to walk, 300 miles from the water. That isn't going to work. So it was kind of interesting to see how they went through all those iterations and what they ended up with. And I always loved that movie because it was one of one of the reasons I got into this stuff is because my mother was a fan of monster movies. She introduced me to all the Universal horror movies, and we were big fans of the Wolfman. We'd always watch the Wolfman when it came on, and I was very little. And she introduced me to Godzilla. She really loved Rodan. She'd seen Rodan in the theaters when it came out. She thought it was a terribly sad movie. She would cry when it came on. And but Gorgo she loved.
It's kind of sad.
Yeah, you think? Yeah, she loved Gorgo a lot, so it's fun to I go back and watch it on Mother's Day sometimes and things like that.
Well, and I'll just say, like, I agree with you. The Gorgo panel was awesome because, like, the most behind the scenes that I knew about Gorgo was from this book. I don't know if you guys have the manuscript series book about Gorgo, but like,
don't.
It's a pretty good book. It's got the script in it, and it's got some behind the scenes stuff. But it's always awesome when you can kind of get a little bit deeper and just find out a little bit more about that stuff. It is sad.
Mm-hmm. Here's a comment about the pre-record. So yeah, thank you, Daniel. I'm glad you appreciated the change. Hopefully, it was somewhat subtle, but a pretty significant improvement, I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it makes a big difference when you. And I hate to minimize and it seems like from the comments no one is doing this, so I hate to minimize the effort and the work that it takes from the translators to be going back and forth, but it makes for a much more streamlined viewing experience when you can go from the question to the answer from the guest to the translation, and not the question to a translation to the answer to a translation. It makes for a much more streamlined viewing experience.
Matt Burkett and I were kind of about to put the dukes up about who came up with the idea to do that first. That's actually that.
You could win. You could win, John.
No, I'll let you win. I don't want to know more.
Arm wrestle.
Winner gets to face Tom.
And you have to do 50 push-ups. All right. I'm afraid when we go back to G-Fest, Tom is going to have like workouts on the patio. And, I'm going to have to do like a Murph, 300 push-ups, 500, miles on the treadmill. What is it? What's a Murph? Isn't it like 5 different things?
It's,
You have to
a
lift weights.
mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 sit-ups? No. 300 squats, and then a mile run.
And this is over the course of how many weeks?
Like, under an hour is what you shoot for.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That would kill me.
I did it in 56 minutes.
Wow.
So you're pretty much a Navy SEAL at this point.
Yes.
Right.
almost exactly, right?
There you
You'd
I'm
make a
36 years old and my knees pop when I walk around the house, but yes,
You'd
I could kick their ass.
You would make a great bouncer, Tom. You jobber.
Yeah.
That was an inside joke.
Yeah.
I see what you did there, John.
Well, from one jobber to the rest, congratulations, everybody. This was a great team effort. It was fun to work with all of you again. Fun to work with the new people like Briquette and Amanda. You know, it's really a great group of people to collaborate with, and I am proud to see, you know, what we created. It's our baby, you know, and it's gonna live on. And you know, I hope we get a chance to do it again.
Hey, Steve.
Yo,
Don't we have some bloopers?
we do have a blooper or two. We do. And I hope the audience has stuck around that they can enjoy this.
Oh, we're gonna do a blooper reel. Okay.
I think that, well, it's not a reel so much, but Patrick, do you want to set up the first one?
What is the first one?
Well, it's the Ding Dong episode.
Okay, yeah, sure. So, one of the other benefits of pre-recording is you can cut out interruptions that occur sometimes when you're interviewing somebody. Like if the doorbell rings or somebody steps in the room or whatever, you can get rid of that, make it a little, and get rid of the part that's going to slow things down. So, when Steve and I were interviewing O'Morty, we're about 20 minutes in. And you can actually hear it in the interview. There was originally his doorbell rang at one point, but what you didn't see was that it later rang again because he got a postcard at one point during the interview and he had to leave to go get it. So we cut it out, but we did preserve the clip, and we would like to show it to you now on Kaiju Masterclass 2.
There you go.
Alright,
The
special
outtake.
features.
私も見てて大好きだったんですけど。Just a moment. Just a moment. はい。はい。
Thank goodness for editing.
Right.
Yes.
Thank goodness for editing. Ed Kaczynski, 2021.
Yeah, that's the little kicker there. That's the button on the end of the scene. So we have another one. This also requires, I think, a tiny bit of setup, or does it?
John can handle that one.
Yeah. So obviously, if you watch the Kuroku interview, our friend Eric Hominick here gave a wonderful thanks to Patrick Galvin, which was well deserved, and Patrick actually did a lot more than kind of what we thank him for on screen. He was time crunching with editing. I mean, he did so much to help this project and to help this whole weekend. So we were sort of waxing poetic in our group chat about Patrick being awesome, and I was in the middle of editing the Kuroku interview, and I just thought I would make a little something funny, or I thought was funny, just for a little laugh. So
There we go.
We hope you enjoyed that fascinating interview with Reijiro Kuroku. And I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge somebody without whom the interview would not have ever happened, and that is our Kaiju Masterclass colleague, Patrick Galvin. Patrick worked very, very hard, very diligently to get Mr. Kuroku to be in touch with us and to set the stage, really, to have the interview set up. So, Patrick, thank you very, very much for making that possible. It goes without saying that if it were not for you, the Kuroku interview would not have happened. On behalf of all of the team at Kaiju Masterclass, thank you very, very much.
That
We
is
love
my,
you, Patrick. Good job.
interview, Patrick.
That was great.
I'm gonna cry.
And I'll tell you what, at the end of the interview today, I actually had to second guess myself. I was like, did I export the right version of that?
Oh dear.
No, it's funny, and I appreciate what you said earlier, John. Yeah, it was a lot of work, but it paid out because this event was terrific. I'm very, very, very proud of what we all put together this weekend. It was great.
By the way, is anybody in an airport right now?
I think Tom is.
Thanks, Tom.
Is it me?
Press mute.
Press mute.
Yep.
Yeah. Sounds like he's got a fan blowing directly onto his.
Don't want you to be late for your flight, Tom.
There you go.
It's the fan on my computer because I just got it sitting on a piece of fabric, so my computer's getting hot.
So that thing's gonna die soon.
Yeah, probably.
All right.
Don't
See
seem
if he
too worried
cares.
Well, what else you got?
Any
Not a
more
damn
questions from the chat? Anyone?
Let me take a
Anyone?
look.
Bueller.
It's mostly just we were being lavished with praise.
Played.
I read as I was speaking.
Lavished with plague.
I don't know what Joey is saying right now, but
Oh no! Comment below. His shorts have fans from his massive workouts. Whatever it means, it's great.
yeah,
Consider me one of those fans.
I really don't know what that means, but it's wonderful.
The short set fans. Oh my.
There. Little something for Joey.
There you go,
He's
Joe.
got
Oh boy!
He has a great running commentary. I think we should just make a Blu-ray of that.
Tom's going out there. He's getting arrested for carrying 2 guns and a 6-pack. I mean, come on.
Riley Roberts asks, "Who is the head of Kaiju Masterclass?"
The head. Well, it's
Now that would be Steve.
but it's kind of democratic.
Yeah. Everyone's pointing at Steve.
We got to do the Brady
he won't
Bunch thing.
accept that answer. He would give a much more diplomatic. It's all of you, everybody thing.
But it is. I mean,
It was a group effort, yeah.
It definitely is. Yeah.
Well, I do try to keep the ship running to the extent I can, but it's all of us have lives, and we struggle.
Someone's tea's going off.
We all struggle to just meet on a regular basis because we're so busy. And anyway, that's nice of you to say. I appreciate that. But really, everybody here lifted, a heavy load. Patrick went above and beyond the Call of Duty, but everybody did in one way or another. But I think Patrick probably put in the most hours of all of us this time.
Yeah.
Just like, there was that one night where it looked like he was so tired he couldn't sleep.
All you can see of Steve is his head. He looks like Robert Downey Jr. in the Iron Man suit, trying to give instructions to Jarvis. He's the head.
I have no body,
Now, see,
You really do look right now. You look like you are just a floating head.
A disembodied head. I was gonna say, like in the Keita Moore interview, I was expecting you to just like give advice to Kal-El over images of space.
Yes.
We should also give a special thanks to all the people who helped promote us this year too.
Yeah,
indeed.
Kaiju News Outlet.
That's right. Yes.
Big help. Also, shout out to Dread Central, Rue Morgue,
Fangoria.
Yep, Fangoria, Tokusatsu Network.
The podcast that featured us.
Yeah, Movie Graveyard podcast. There's a lot of people that really kind of helped us that we're very, very grateful for.
Kaiju Battle ran an article on us as well.
Yep, that's really important. We want to hopefully build on those relationships. We're little. We're kind of just starting out in a way. Even though it's the second time we've done it, it definitely feels like we're working. Even though some of our meetings feel pretty disorganized and all that, but as far as just the way things come together, it does feel like it's running pretty smoothly right now. So I think we can build on this. So yeah, we'll definitely be talking about whether we, do it again and what that looks like. So yeah.
I think one thing that I'm not sure how much of it'll happen, but we would like to maybe toy with the idea of doing, throughout the year, maybe like a
Yes.
special, thing, just
Kaiju
have
Masterclass
have a
Extra.
guest or
Yeah.
yeah. Like a Kaiju Masterclass, have one interview go up,
Yeah.
or a panel go up, in the middle of some month or
I want to say
whatever.
too that it was really valuable, Burkett, that you came on board, not just because you produced, content in the form of our trailer and other things, but and we haven't really mentioned Kyle Gilmore yet.
I was just gonna. Yep.
but as far as Matt Burkett here has a lot of experience with social media, and so his kind of counsel on that kind of thing was pretty helpful. And that's one of the reasons we kind of expanded this year, was to try to get smarter about what we're doing. So
yeah, we're dumb.
Yeah.
Where's the lie?
Say what?
I said, where's the lie on that?
Yeah, and so we should talk. Yeah, John, why don't you talk a little bit about Kyle G and his contributions, because we definitely need to thank him profusely.
Okay, well, so I mean, first off, Matt, it has been a pleasure to have you on and for you to be working with us and providing graphics. As far as Kyle goes, I mean, it's funny because Kyle should be here right now and he should be accepting his praise, but like he's so low key about it that he won't. So, but I will say in praise of Kyle, he sort of, he designed like our logo that we've been using for the last year. Kind of like this year, basically anytime we needed something, we were like, hey, Kyle, can you get this to us? And he would have it like that. I mean, it would be in the drive. Like if we needed like a branding bug for the editing, any kind of graphics, name cards, our schedule, like everything like that.
Yeah.
And then kind of late in the game, it sort of came on to him to do our intro video, which I think he did a great job at, because we were thinking about like, okay, what can we do for that? Because like obviously last year, Matt Burkett, he did sort of like he did an intro video that actually came. It was, I think, before Wakasa's panel, during our opening ceremonies, and it was like this really cool, like, you got like this modern trailer style, like kaboom, 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 great narration, and so we're kind of thinking like, okay, so what can we do in the short amount of time, that being like a week or week and a half out, that's maybe not just because like our style's a little bit different. So I sort of kind of spitball to him. I was like, okay, so last year we did like an advanced trailer or whatever that looked like Godzilla 54, where it was black and white and the credits were kind of scrolling up like that. And I said, what if this year we did like an homage to Destroy All Monsters, where you had like sort of the guests in these like odd shaped, like textured kind of colors and stuff. And he took that idea and he ran with it, and he produced our intro video, which I hope you all got to see. And I can't say enough about Kyle Gilmore. He's awesome. Yeah. He's very talented, and Kaiju Masterclass has benefited from having him and having Matt Burkett as our graphics people, because they just continuously produce awesome stuff for us, and they're always reliable. They're always there when we need them. So,
well, John, if you're going to do that, can we at least talk about the new theme song that you composed this year?
No.
Yeah.
It wasn't a new theme song. I actually did that one last year, but I kind of refined it this year. If anybody was annoyed by the the music that was playing during any of the bumpers or that intro, that was my original score music, and
It was good shit.
And just please direct any hate mail towards me. These guys had nothing to do with it. No, that was fun to write. It was really fun to kind of like. Well, it was fun to write last year, but like to sort of take that idea and just with me sort of having more like sample like libraries and stuff at my disposal to make it more crunchy and like the brass a little bit more bitey. And I don't really know what to say about it other than I was happy to kind of get another shot at it and make it a little bit different, do a sequel theme, I guess. So yeah, but that's all I have to say about it.
It sounded fantastic.
It really
Thank
did.
you.
You know, it was as others have pointed out, it was hummable, it's memorable. I just threw up a comment from Martin thanking us for the event, but he also gave a shout out to my mom, rest her soul. So I thought that was pretty nice. Thank you, Martin. She was pretty cool.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Riley Roberts wants to know if he asks us a question on Facebook Messenger, who answers?
Sometimes none of us do.
I wasn't going to say that.
It depends on what the question is.
Yes, I think a lot of the times it would be either me, Patrick, or Matt Parmley. I feel like the three of us are usually like one of us would do that. I've been running a lot of the socials all weekend and running the chats. When the little comment box comes up that says Kaiju Masterclass, that's me.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. By the way, that's a lot of work. So and you've been tweeting us out there and all that good stuff. So yeah, I've seen all the flurry of posts you've made. So all I do is share them. I mean, it's too much for me to actually, link to something anymore. So
some of you guys do the social media better than we do. So
yeah, it's work. Oh, he asked because he might have a few suggestions. So fire away.
Throw them to us.
You can throw them up right now. Let's hear it.
No, don't do that.
No. Okay, never mind. Don't do that.
Yeah.
There was the comment that said, they definitely. I think it might have been Riley who mentioned this. Definitely keep this going in 2022 because they're not sure if they're going to be able to be at G Fest. And I would say absolutely that's something that you guys should 100% keep in mind. I mean, not everyone can not everyone can get on a plane and get to something that's out of town, right? And I know at times talking to some of you guys behind the scenes, it can be a little frustrating when maybe you've done this really good interview with someone and there's only 15 or 30 people watching it live, but when you go back and look at some of the stuff from last year, it has kicked up between 5 and 10 times as many viewers in the year since it was posted until now that what you're getting on some of these videos from 2021. And this is a great thing that just sits out there forever for people to kind of rediscover and come across and approach at their own leisure too, right? I know it's a weekend thing and everyone probably needs some sleep here, but that it's on YouTube forever. People can come to it and watch an interview a day if they want to.
Yep, it's an online archive of a great deal of information. I think.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it'll be discovered by, people who continue to write about this stuff, in the future. As we said, until somebody blows up YouTube, anyway.
Right. Kevin asked what panels had the busiest chat. As far as the chats go, well, for attendance, Kitagawa and Kitamura probably had the most. But as far as like just the active chats, I think Kitamura, Tiffany Grant, and probably Kitagawa and Shinada. Those all had really, really active comments.
Somebody really wants us to put this stuff on Blu-ray. You're in the Blu-ray business or something?
So how do you think? How do you think these compressed files are going to look on a Blu-ray upscaled?
Yeah. I don't want to see my face on on a 55
in stunning
60.
high def.
No,
I don't want to see my face at all.
Well,
and here you are.
We can arrange that. All right.
No, it's free. It's on YouTube.
Yep.
Here anytime you want to watch it.
Well, kids, what do you say?
Oh, this guy Luminous suggests maybe to get more attention, give the videos titles and thumbnails that indicate the subject matter in addition to the guest name. We were kind of talking about at some point maybe putting up segments of the interviews as well, like for quick access clips. So that that's not a bad idea. I think that's kind of adjacent to that.
Yeah, for sure. Like Kazuki Omori talks about perceived anti-American, whatever. Like that.
Kazuki Omori gets his mail.
Well, definitely. There you go. Definitely in the YouTube descriptions, we could do that. I'm not sure how that really is going to affect viewership. That's something we need to research. I mean, we need to do a sort of download after this and look at the YouTube stats and really dig a little deeper into what worked and what didn't work quite as well, and whatever we can learn from that. This comment from Daniel is right on the nose. Keeping this preserved and available for future fans and academics is so incredibly important, and that's one of the reasons why we did it. So.
And big shout out to all the live viewers too. Yes. Obviously, same with last year. Most people are going to be watching this after these have been, out. So, the people that have actually been watching all weekend, I mean, that's time. People, you guys have lives, so that's time that you've set aside to listen to.
Well, I know I saw Helmi Abdot in a bunch, like in practically every panel, as well as Doomzilla.
Yeah, Doomzilla was in nearly all of them. I mean, so that's loyalty, and I'm happy to see people enjoying it enough to pretty much watch everything.
I was going to say earlier on, Daniel actually made a comment just about, when you guys were talking about dispelling the narrative about Kitamura and Godzilla Final Wars and sort of the way that went. And that's important. And somebody else had said, I love Final Wars, fight me. No, we're not going to fight you if you love Final Wars. You can love it. You can hate it. You can be somewhere in between on it. It doesn't matter. That's not why we do this.
Right.
We love getting the stories out there, and we love talking to the filmmakers. And that's it. That's really what it's all about.
Not all of us have lives. Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, I'm afraid we can't help you there, but good luck. We wish you well. Hopefully you're kidding.
It's not all it's cracked up to be.
There you go.
Yeah.
Reach out if you need help.
Yes, please seek professional assistance. Thank you to all the people who are commenting now and have watched all through the weekend. It's kind of been fun to.
I was going to say, wait, didn't Kevin ask what the busiest panel chat was? I think it might be this.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, maybe.
There's a couple of comments on here from Luminous. I'm wondering, is this the Luminous of the YouTube channel?
Yeah, the same guy.
Okay, very good. Yeah. Well,
gents, I hate to say this. I actually need to duck out. Hate to spoil the party.
No,
you guys all look so sad. I'm like, I'm gonna go, and you're just like, no. Look at John. Look at John. Look at that face. That is the face that says, "Matt, don't leave. Riquette, don't leave."
Hi, Richard. We love looking at your face. It's
Man,
Mario.
we can bring him in if you want. We can bring Richard Busatarian.
It's Mario and Luigi. Yes.
Well, Matt, thank you very much for all that you did for Kaiju Masterclass this year. It couldn't have been the same without you. Thank you very much for helping us out and steering us in the right direction in a lot of cases as far as like the videos and YouTube and social media goes. So you're a valued member of the team, and we're very honored to have you and lucky to have you too.
Well, the honor is all mine. This was an absolute trip. Each and every one of you guys are awesome. Tom, I'm sorry, I never even got to say hi to you. Thank you for sharing that video initially and getting it all kick-started.
Well, thanks for making it so that I could boisterously share it.
But yeah, guys, thank you again so much. And yeah, I really hope that this will not be the last time. I don't think it will be, but it's been a blast.
Yeah.
So have a good night, gents. Chat, thank you so much. Adi to the os.
Adi to the os.
Bye,
Later,
Matt.
dude.
See you later, Matt.
Hi, Matt.
So anyway, you get another Dutch. You got a. Are we still allowed to call you Dutch?
You know, I guess it's what it is. Like, I hate that nickname, but all right.
Richard is just
yeah.
You know, he's our stalker tonight. I don't know.
Well, no, it's okay. What the hell did I do here? It would be cool to have Richard in here because he could talk about the time he was mistaken for Don Fry. Isn't that right, Richard? I heard he signed an autograph for somebody. Somebody came up to him and said, Don Fry, and he just signed it Richard Pusateri. That's the legend.
Wow.
Don't know if it's true or not.
Wow. Yeah. So I must have told somebody this story. On one of my trips to Japan, I saw Demi Moore at the baggage claim.
Mm-hmm.
This was in 1996 because I was going there to see them film Gamera 2. And so I wanted to get her autograph. The only thing I had in my hand was the book on the making of Gamera Guardian of the Universe. And I just opened it and had her sign her autograph in there. So later when I was at the set, I brought the book over to Shinji Higuchi and asked him to sign it, and he saw it and he wrote Bruce Willis, which they were married at the time. I thought that was pretty clever.
Steve, didn't you have a funny story about being on the set of Gamera 2 and a certain somebody yelling at you to get the hell off the set?
Well, I mean, yeah, it was
not.
No, they did kind of. They got the megaphone. The Ohashi, the suit actor who was playing Godzilla, it was the outdoor set that they had constructed for the Sendai airport battle, and they were just filming a scene or a shot where Gamera's walking across the tarmac and things blow up in front of him and all that, and they had this raised platform that they were going to shoot this on. It was maybe, I don't know, about 6 feet off the ground, if I recall, and so you had to walk up a little ramp to get onto it. It was made out of wood, and they built it that way because there were apartment buildings on the horizon, and so they wanted to raise up the set so that they didn't have to digitally, I guess, or maybe they couldn't effectively erase those apartment buildings off of the shot. So anyway, the Ohashi showing me the Gamera suit, and he's showing me all this stuff, and he's taking me around, and he takes me up on this ramp to show me this set. Well, they had all the explosions wired up, and ready to go, and we're walking around up there. And my dumb ass is just going, "Oh, this is really great!" And they, in Japanese, but I understood exactly what they were saying. It was, get the F off of there. It was Higuchi was over there by the camera on a ladder. They had raised up the camera because the set platform was higher. It was really interesting. But he came over later and he just kind of like patted me on the shoulder and said, "No, it's all right." I was afraid I was going to get thrown out, which would have been really embarrassing. But that was a good day. It was a good day. It was that, and it was cold. I brought a pea coat to wear that day. It was all outdoors. I think it was January, and it was probably like in the 30s or so. It wasn't snowing or anything, but it was really freaking cold. And all the photos I have of everybody, they've all got like parkas on, and I've got a pea coat, which is okay, but the pea coat doesn't close here really well. And it just kind of
no scarf, huh?
I didn't have a scarf, no. No.
So Richard confirms that story, by the way.
Which story is that?
Uh,
The premiere. Yeah.
Yes, apparently that's where he was mistaken for Don Fry.
Yes. That's a good story.
Maybe that'd be a good panel for next year. People that have been mistaken for Don Fry.
Richard, are you available? We'll pre-record it.
What about people who've been mistaken for Hulk Hogan?
Keep on keeping on, John.
Yeah. All right, well, kids, I'm going to turn in, unless you have more interesting stories to tell.
No, I think
this is a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, until next year, everybody. And boy, this was a wild ride. And again, thanks to everybody who contributed and participated and watched and will watch.
Yeah.
Will, yes.
Yeah, no, this is always great, and I love being a part of this. I mean, I probably don't say it enough, but like Steve and Ed, like I was reading their books and stuff when I was in elementary school. So
don't say that.
True.
don't say that. Yeah.
and so it's awesome to be a part of this with all these people.
We really dig working with you guys. It's cool that we've all become friends through this process. I mean, we knew each other, but I think the next time we're able to get together in person, it's going to be a blast. So looking forward to that too. All right, now get the hell out of here.
That was a good Captain Kirk from the end of the Star Trek episode, City on the Edge of... Wait, was that?
City on the Edge of Battle?
No, not City on the Edge of Battle.
That awful second
almost
part of the trilogy.
Okay, we're done.
All right.
See you guys next year.
See you next year.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Adios.
Thanks.